Hello, this is Lisa, CEO of Sight for White and White Sense. Welcome you to this week's Talking News on Friday, the 6th of June, 2025. For those who are here this week at the coffee morning, you were introduced to Jane, who is a potential CEO candidate. We also have another gentleman coming in next week, hopefully on Wednesday, and you'll be able to meet him too if you're again at the coffee morning. Jane was asking people at my request about how they spent their PIP money, as I have been selected as someone to contribute to the new PIP reforms, and therefore the more information we can gather and feedback, the better. Also this week we've been preparing, as we have a stand at the Isle of Wight Festival this year again. We have, however, a request. We are looking to build a device for 3 people to sit in and become a human fruit machine. If anybody knows of any builders or anybody handyman who can help with this, we would be very grateful for any help, as we are struggling to find somebody to help us with this. So if you do know anyone, please do let me know. Lisa, CEO, Sight for White and White Sense.
Here is this week's charity news, the 6th of June 2025. Swimming at Medina is on Mondays between 1:15 and 2 p.m. We have the whole pool, so whether you wish to swim lanes or just have gentle exercise in the pool, you will be made very welcome. The cost is £6 and transport is available, although limited. All members are very welcome to join.
On Monday, our hearing cafe is at the Hungry Caterpillar, Medina Garden Centre, between 10:30 and 12 o'clock. This will also include our catch-up and feedback session, so please feel free to go along and feed any news or suggestions back to staff members.
Yoga is on Tuesdays at Millbrook House. This group is now full, but if you wish to put your name down on the waiting list, please call the office.
Coffee and chat is on Wednesday, starting at 10 o'clock until 11:30. The cost is £2 to include drinks and cake. Staff are on hand to help with any queries and to demonstrate equipment.
Walk and Talk is on Friday the 13th of June, and this month the walk is from Shanklin Esplanade to Brown's Golf Course in Yaverland, and for more details please call the office.
Now the warmer and hopefully sunnier weather is coming, our tandem bikes are now out and about. If you would like to book a session, please call the office and a slot can be booked with the pilots.
Our June Eye on Social will be meeting for a lunch on June the 18th at the Crown Inn, Shorewell at 12 o'clock. If you would like to join us, please call the office and put your name down on the list.
We are pleased to announce several new dates for upcoming summer events. We have once again been invited to the Royal Victoria Yacht Club on Saturday the 12th of July to take part in their annual Disabilities Sailing Day. All members who have attended before have thoroughly enjoyed themselves. Numbers are limited, but if oversubscribed, a ballot will take place for the allocated spaces. Please call the office if you are interested.
Another activity on the sea is a trip on wet wheels. This chartered boat will take members out onto the Solent for a 90-minute trip. The dates are the 11th of August and the 1st of September. The cost is £8 per person, but once again numbers are limited, and so a ballot will have to be held if oversubscribed. Please call the office if you are interested.
If you sometimes wish you had a friend to talk to and feel isolated from the outside world, our telephone befrienders are on hand to call you for a friendly chat. The calls can be weekly, fortnightly or monthly and can be tailored around your needs. If you would like to receive a telephone call, please call the office and we will match you with a befriender.
Our monthly 100 Club has spare balls available. If anyone would like to buy a ball, it is £2 a month or £24 for the full year. The more balls in the draw, the higher the prize money each month. If you would like to take part in our monthly draw, then please call the office, and this is part of our fundraising activities.
Hello, this is an article from the Island Echo, read by Sue. Devolution decision imminent for Hampshire and Isle of Wight councils. Council chiefs across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight are waiting to learn if proposals for devolution have met the government's statutory tests. The Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government is expected to confirm later this month if the planned regional authority and elected mayoralty can continue to the next phase. As part of the government's priority programme, work is ongoing to create a new mayoral combined county authority for Hampshire and the Solent. If all goes to plan, elections for the first regional mayor would take place in May next year. This individual will likely have responsibility for areas such as skills, transport and strategic planning, with funding and powers transferred down from Westminster. The Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government ran a public consultation which closed in mid-April on the devolution proposals. The next stage involves ministers confirming if statutory tests have been met. If the tests have been met, it is expected that the government will confirm their intention to lay the relevant legislation for the new mayoral authority to be created. A regional programme board has already been established, with representatives from the 4 upper-tier authorities: Hampshire County Council, Isle of Wight Council, Portsmouth City Council and Southampton City Council, and 2 of the 11 districts. The timeline for devolution in Hampshire and the Solent set out to councillors is as follows. Mid-late June 2025, MHCLG will confirm whether their statutory tests have been met and if they intend to pursue the laying of the relevant legislation to establish a mayoral authority. October 2025, the first release of mayoral capacity funding will take place once the statutory instrument has been laid in Parliament. Early 2026, councils need to submit assurance frameworks for review and the MCCA will be legally established. March 2026, the notice of election needs to have been called by this point for polling day to take place as planned. May 2026, the election for the first regional mayor of Hampshire and the Solent takes place. The devolution process is separate from work ongoing around local government reorganisation, LGR. The government's national LGR plans are to end of the current 2-tier structure through the creation of larger unitary authorities that deliver all council services.
This is Michael reading an article from Island Echo. Summer planting scheme adds a splash of colour across the island. Summer planting is now in full bloom, turning heads and flower beds with a dazzling display of colour and creativity across the Isle of Wight. Thanks to the green-thumbed efforts of John O'Connor's team, an eye-popping 24,441 bedding plants have been tucked into public flower beds across the island. This year's floral lineup includes the ever-cheerful osteospermums, classic geraniums, playful antirrhinums, and the bold and beautiful salvias. Chosen for their ability to thrive in the island's salty sea air, these blooms are more than just a pretty face. They're part of a carefully curated planting scheme designed to brighten up our public spaces and support local biodiversity. Natasha Dix, Service Director for Waste, Environment and Planning at the Isle of Wight Council, said, "It's always a joy to see the island come alive with colour at this time of year. The planting has been thoughtfully designed to thrive in our coastal conditions, and we hope residents and visitors alike will enjoy the displays throughout the summer." We'd also like to extend our heartfelt thanks to the island's town, parish and community councils for their ongoing collaboration and support. Their commitment to floral excellence and pride in our public spaces plays a vital role in making the Isle of Wight bloom so beautifully each year. And the job doesn't stop at planting. John O'Connor's team will be on watering duty too, keeping the blooms perky, pampered and paparazzi ready all summer long.
This is Patrina reading from The Island Echo. Vectis Radio 4P's Training School nominated for BBC Award. The Vectis Radio 4P's Training School charity has been nominated in the BBC Make a Difference Award. The award-winning Vectis Radio 4P's Training School is a registered charity dedicated to supporting young people aged 11 to 19, including those with additional needs, by helping them build confidence and communication skills through hands-on radio training. The Make a Difference Award, run nationally and regionally by the BBC, are the public's chance to say thank you and recognise those who improve lives where they live. Helen Head, senior content producer for BBC Radio Solent, said in an email to the charity, "I am delighted to tell you that you've been nominated for a BBC Radio Solent Make a Difference Award for 2025. Congratulations." Winners will be selected by a panel of judges, and awards will be given in each category across each national and local BBC radio station. The Make a Difference Award ceremonies will take place across the UK in September. Maggie Curry, trustee of the 4P's charity, said, "This is fantastic news. Even to be nominated for this award is an honour and a testament to the hard work and dedication put in by the team behind the 4P's session. Thank you to whoever nominated us, and I hope this recognition will enable us to help even more young people. Good luck to all the nominees."
Guru Alan Edwards to give book launch at Dimbola. From Isle of Wight Radio. Alan Edwards, the godfather of British music PR, who has worked with artists like David Bowie, the Spice Girls, the Rolling Stones, the Stranglers, Prince and Amy Winehouse, is to give a talk at Dimbola on Wednesday, June the 18th, to launch his book, which is called I Was There, Dispatches from a Life in Rock and Roll. Alan's company, The Outside Organisation, are the PR team for John Giddings' artists, including The Cause, who will be here for the Isle of Wight Festival that weekend, and John has said he will be attending in the evening. Sponsored by Mermaid Gin, the evening will start with welcoming drinks at 6 o'clock, followed by a talk from Alan, moderated by Tom Stroud, a Q&A session and a book signing. In I Was There, Alan describes getting his break in the mid-70s as a scruffy, stoned 20-year-old just back from the hippie trail. His encounter with the London's thriving punk scene, which inspired him to step up his own PR company, broadening his horizons as his work with the likes of Blondie takes him to the US and beyond, and his move into the world of pop with the Spice Girls during the tabloid-crazed 90s. A spokesperson for the event said, "At the centre of this story sits the defining relationship of Edwards' career, his close, almost 40-year collaboration with David Bowie. He guides us through a series of vivid, funny, always insightful behind-the-scenes reports, whether he's playing a spontaneous game of football with Bob Marley, listening to Prince, discuss the future of civilization in a nightclub VIP area, or being used as a pawn in the power struggle between Mick Jagger and Keith Richards. Alan will share his fascinating observations about the brilliant artists he's worked with and what makes them tick as he looks back on his role in the last 5 decades of music and culture." Tickets for the book launch are available from Dimbola on 0756814 at £8 or £7 for Friends of Dimbola. To include free drinks from Mermaid Gin, and all profits go to the Julia Margaret Cameron Trust, who runs the Dimbola Museum and galleries for us to enjoy as islanders.
Hello, this is an article from the Isle of Wight, radio read by Sue. Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust launches biggest ever citizen science project. This June, Hampshire and the Isle of Wight Life Trust is calling on families, community groups, schools and individuals to get outdoors, connect with nature and help record local wildlife as part of its biggest ever citizen science project, for 30 Days Wild. 30 Days Wild is the UK's annual month-long nature challenge from the Wildlife Trusts, which inspires thousands of people to do something wild every day throughout June. This year, Hampshire and the Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust is taking it to the next level, with 30 Days of Wild Records, a simple, fun way for communities to explore and document local biodiversity, creating a clearer picture of nature across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. The project uses a user-friendly mobile survey tool called Survey 123, making it easy for people of all ages and experience levels to record species sightings from gardens, school grounds, parks and green spaces. Dawn O'Malley, Senior Engagement Manager at Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust, said, "This project is a fantastic opportunity for everyone in our communities to connect with nature in a meaningful way. Whether you're a seasoned wildlife enthusiast or trying this for the first time, simply recording what you see is a simple but powerful act that helps us build a clearer picture of the incredible wildlife we share our local environment with. We hope this will inspire more people to explore the natural world around them, contribute to conservation efforts and feel part of a growing team working to make Hampshire and the Isle of Wight wilder." To support participants, the Trust has also created a free, downloadable wildlife recording toolkit containing resources such as spotter sheets, field notebook templates, safety tips, and ideas for outdoor learning activities. This is an exciting step for nature lovers of all ages and abilities, Dawn adds. By taking part in our citizen science survey, people across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight can contribute to a powerful, community-driven effort to monitor and protect wildlife. Whether you're spotting butterflies in your garden, listening for birdsong in your local park, or exploring woodland trails, every record counts towards a better understanding of our precious natural world. The initiative runs throughout June and also features weekly themed challenges such as Pollinator Week and Tree Trekkers to keep participants inspired. The Trust will share highlights and top sightings from the survey, spotlight local schools and community groups taking part, and encourage people to share their wild discoveries on social media using the hashtag 30dayswild. At the end of the project, the Trust will publish a summary report, an interactive map showcasing all the species recorded, celebrating the efforts of everyone involved. Certificates will also be awarded to participating schools and community groups.
This is Patrina reading from Isle of Wight Radio. GKN Works could see new structure built at East Cowes site. A multinational aerospace company could carry out works at its East Cowes facility to enable continued investment in the business. GKN Aerospace has submitted a planning application to build an external mezzanine structure at its Falcon Yard building on East Cowes Ferry Road to house new plant equipment. The company's agent, ERMC, says the proposal shows a strong commitment for GKN Aerospace to remain both a key site for global manufacturing as well as securing continued employment opportunities across the Isle of Wight. ERMC's Design and Access Statement says GKN Aerospace Isle of Wight was established in circa 1901 in the East Cowes area and has been a steady employer of skilled workers since that time. In recent years, the East Cowes site have moved towards becoming a centre of excellence for composite material manufacture, shifting their tooling and equipment towards delivering class-leading composite manufacturing processes. To support and grow this aspect of the business, strong investment in new equipment is continuing to be made to ensure they have the tools available to continue in the competitive aerospace market. To secure new contracts and ensure the long-term stability and growth of the business, there is need to modify and expand on their existing building stock to accommodate modern processes and manufacturing techniques. Much of the Ferry Road site's buildings can be dated back to the early 1900s, and so a level of change is to be expected to meet these demands. County Hall's public consultation on application closed on June 20, and a decision is expected on July 16th.
2025 Speedway season still uncertain despite White Link deal. From the Island Echo. A final decision on whether Speedway will return to the Isle of Wight in 2025 has been delayed until later this month, as promoters continue to battle against rising costs and logistical challenges. Supporters and volunteers gathered in the Premier Lounge last Friday to hear from Warriors promoters Barry Bishop and Martin Widman, who provided an update on efforts to bring the sport back to the Isle of Wight this season. An agreement has now been secured with ferry company White Link, which organisers say is a positive step forward. However, it's also highlighted the wider financial and operational pressures that continue to hinder planning, including restrictions on vehicle transport, increasing medical costs, and issues with rider availability. Despite the uncertainty, fans made it clear that their preference remains for full team Speedway with a core group of 6 or 7 riders to follow throughout a meaningful season. However, organisers warned that simply returning to the National League model used before the pandemic is no longer viable. Martin Widman, promoter, has said, "Looking back to National League days before COVID, it is not very useful as Speedway at our current level has changed so much in our view and will require more radical change to improve things. But we can definitely do our bit on the island." Kent are currently operating with only 4 National Trophy home fixtures and several challenge matches, which isn't something that would work here, so other methods have to be explored. One such option under consideration is a shift to Tuesday evening fixtures, which could alleviate wider shortages experienced last year. Historically, Speedway was always held on a Tuesday. This would, however, depend on whether the volunteer team can accommodate a change in schedule. If viable, a reduced but high-quality programme of 6 or 7 fixtures would begin on the final Tuesday of July, a potential springboard into 2026, which marks the 30th anniversary of League Speedway on the Isle of Wight. To make this happen, promoters say more local advertising, sponsorship and increased attendance will be vital. They've asked all supporters to suggest low-cost ways to reach wider audiences, particularly as the summer holiday season approaches. Meanwhile, organisers confirmed that the successful training programme, My First Skid, will continue unaffected regardless of the Warriors' league plans. A final decision is expected by Friday the 13th of June.
And this is the second part of the Talking News, read today by me, Morris.
And me, Lynn.
The NHS has always ignored the dying. Those are the damning words of Nigel Hartley, Mountbatten's Isle of Wight retiring chief executive. They come following a devastating decision made by mainland health bosses to withdraw around £1.4 million a year in critical funding for the island hospice. Around £600,000 is being cut from this autumn and without prior warning. The Hampshire and Isle of Wight Integrated Care Board, the ICB, has announced a reallocation of system funding for hospices, and as a result, Mountbatten faces a disinvestment of around 40% by 2026 and 27. For over a decade, Mountbatten Isle of Wight has received around a third of its money from the ICB, which distributes NHS funding to healthcare services on the island. The rest of the money the charity needs comes from the community through donations, gifts in wills, grants, fundraising and dedicated charity shops. While the Isle of Wight Hospice has been told it will get less cash, some hospices in Hampshire are seeing a rise in their allocated funds. The funding deficit means possible redundancies and an uncertain future for vital and much-used community services. The charity is asking islanders to take action to save our hospice as we know it, by writing to NHS commissioners, Health Watch and MPs. Becky McGregor, incoming Mountbatten Chief Executive, said the hugely disappointing decision amounting to funding cuts has been made without direct meaningful consultation, engagement or negotiation with Mountbatten. It is one that will have a wide-ranging and significant impact on islanders. The changes will hit the charity's finances from this autumn. A spokesperson for NHS Hampshire and Isle of Wight said, "We have a duty to ensure fair, equitable funding for all hospices, and we are exploring ways to support Mountbatten Isle of Wight going forward, and discussions will continue with the hospice. We are committed to ensuring more care is provided in the community close to where people live. We see hospices and end-of-life care services as a core part of this, which will also create new opportunities for the sector." Mr Hartley said the NHS has always ignored the dying. People who are at the most vulnerable times of their lives are an easy target for disinvestment. How we care for the most vulnerable people in our society is at the heart of who we are, and it seems clear to me Hampshire and Isle of Wight ICB is intent on destroying this.
Terrified after a car careers into the house. A woman who is registered blind has spoken of the terrifying moment a car came crashing into her house, causing significant structural damage. Ruth Hollingshead of Priory Road, Carisbrook, said it was fortunate no one was hurt in the collision, which happened at about 4:15 p.m. last Saturday afternoon. The vehicle and its driver fled the scene, prompting a police investigation. Ruth, a trustee at charity Sight for Wight, was in her kitchen when she heard a screeching of brakes, followed by a tremendous bang. Thinking somebody had been hit on the road outside, Ruth and her son Fletcher rushed out the door. There was a pedestrian who had just been missed, she said. My neighbours heard the first bang and looked out of the window and saw it hit. It clipped a car, did a 360 in the road, mounted the curb and hit the front of my house. When the car hit, Fletcher, 26, was on the other side of the wall in the lounge, playing with his PlayStation with his headset on. Remarkably, he came away unscathed. Ruth said the bang was so loud that Fletcher's friend heard it through the headset and said, "What was that?" Ruth's daughter also felt the impact from upstairs. Although no one was hurt, Ruth said the front of her house has shifted and will require significant work to fix it. There's a great big crack, she said. A builder said they will have to jack up the front of the house and replace all the brickwork. Ruth said racing along the road had been a problem for a while, and it usually happened at night. She said residents have reported it to the police on a number of occasions, and it was only a matter of time before there was an accident. I've often said to my son, if you hear a screech of brakes, then move, she said. Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary confirmed it was called at 4:24 p.m. Police said no injuries were reported and inquiries are underway to establish the full circumstances.
Proposed new McDonald's has the locals not loving it. Potential plans for a new McDonald's in Cowes have been slammed by residents who say the site in question is unsuitable. It has led to the creation of a petition and sparked concern in the local community. The controversial site of interest is believed to be a disused green space located between the Van Mossel Esplanade car dealership and BAE Systems, directly opposite Rogerson Close on Three Gates Road. Nearby resident Alexis Hollis, who was tipped off about the plan via an anonymous WhatsApp message last month, has taken the lead in voicing community concerns by launching an online petition which has already gathered more than 250 signatures. It's quite a short road, so that would massively impact the traffic coming down that way, said Alexis. There are a million reasons to not want it there. The majority of people aren't completely opposed to a McDonald's in Cowes, it's just not the right place for it. While McDonald's has not yet submitted a planning application, the company confirmed in a letter to Isle of Wight West MP Richard Quigley that it is progressing with proposals to open new restaurants in both Cowes and Lake. The Lake site near Merry Gardens is currently subject of a planning application. McDonald's said each restaurant will bring significant investment and up to 120 full and part-time jobs, and emphasised its commitment to environmental responsibility and community engagement. We strive to be a good neighbour in the areas in which we operate and always want to work in partnership with local councils and stakeholders to ensure our plans are right for the local community, the statement read. Despite McDonald's reassurances, Alexis said that the proposed location is too close to Love Lane Primary School, potentially within the 400-metre restriction zone for fast food outlets, and that traffic volume, light pollution, noise and litter could become significant issues. I've always cherished the serene environment of Three Gates Road, she said. It's a place where residents can enjoy the simple pleasures of a quiet neighbourhood and where wildlife thrives on the verdant patches of land. But now this tranquility is under threat. There is a perfectly good site up behind Aldi that is waiting to be developed, she said. MP Richard Quigley's office confirmed that while McDonald's has acknowledged plans for Cowes, no official planning application has been submitted and no site has been officially confirmed. McDonald's has been approached for an official statement, but the county press has not received a response.
The rescue bears are rehomed at last. After years of tireless effort and fundraising, 2 European brown rescue bears have moved into their new sanctuary by the sea. Setting off on a 2-day trip from Baku Airport, Azerbaijan, brothers Benji and Baloo embarked on an epic journey to get to their new home at Wildheart Animal Sanctuary, Sandown. Arriving at Glasgow Airport on Tuesday night, their trip saw them fly 3,000 miles on a 6-hour flight. After clearing customs, they started the journey south, travelling via road to Portsmouth and on Whitelink to the island, before arriving at the sanctuary at around 10 o'clock on Wednesday. Each in their own metal transport crates, the bears, believed to be aged 13, were carefully lifted one by one from a van with the help of a digger before walking freely into their new dens. CEO Lawrence Bates, who flew out to Azerbaijan to meet Benji and Baloo for the first time last Sunday, told the county press, "This is about 5 years in the making, when we first had the idea, and we really got the fundraising ramped up last year. It's just a culmination of a huge amount of effort from so many different people. It's really nice to see and get to this point. Benji and Baloo are the first bears to step foot on the Isle of Wight in 30 years. Visitors to the sanctuary are welcome to access the new viewing platform, but the bears may not be visible while they are settling in. Before venturing out into their outside habitat, staff want to give them the time, space and privacy they need to get comfortable in their new surroundings. Benji and Baloo's new 3,500 square foot home features grass, trees and places to hibernate, with a varied diet and expert care to aid in their rehabilitation. As bears like to be up high, there is even a platform allowing them to see the sea. There is also a 9-foot deep pond, acting like a physiotherapy pool and allowing them to cool down in hot weather. Water in the pond comes from a state-of-the-art harvesting system which captures rainwater from the attraction's cafe roof in large tanks. It has been made possible thanks to a £200,000 grant from Southern Water. The firm has also created a SUDS, a Sustainable Drainage Scheme, Safari at the sanctuary, which gathers rainwater and uses gravity to create a rainwater curtain, children's mud kitchen and wetland plant area at various locations across the site. Lucy Francis, head of Bear section at the sanctuary, said, "It's fantastic and it's so nice to see our dream from the last year come to fruition. We're really excited to get to know them, get to know their personalities and see them thrive in their new habitat." Benji and Baloo were found malnourished, starving and underweight, with severe damage to their teeth from stress-induced bar biting. They've not had the best experience, but we're hoping we can turn that around for them and allow them to be real bears, Lucy said.
Teen caught with knife in his sock at Wetherspoons. A 19-year-old caught with a lock knife tucked into his sock at a pub has been spared an immediate jail term. Alan Kubacki of Numwell Road, Sandown, appeared before Isle of Wight magistrates on May the 23rd. He also drove a car while he only had a provisional licence and failed his driving test. At a previous hearing in March, the 19-year-old admitted drug driving, driving without a licence and driving without insurance on Station Road in St Helens on October the 20th last year. He also admitted possession of a knife in a public place, the Wetherspoons Man in the Moon pub in Newport on February the 21st. Prosecutor Lauren McConnell said police were travelling along Beepers Shoot at around 7:45 on October the 20th. She said they were alerted to a Volkswagen Polo with 4 occupants which was flagging for having no insurance. Driver Kubacki only held a provisional licence and tested positive for cannabis, registering a reading of 3.2 when the specified limit is 2. Ms McConnell said months later, on February the 21st, concerns were raised that Kubacki and the group he was with were using drugs. At around 9 p.m. at the Man in the Moon public house, Kubacki was searched by a security guard who found a lock knife concealed in his sock. Barry Keel, defending, said Kubacki demonstrated poor thinking skills. He said Kubacki was cooperative with the search and didn't show off the knife at all and simply forgot he had it. Mr. Keel said Kubacki lacked a positive male role model, was at a crossroads in his life and there was a real prospect of rehabilitation. The presiding magistrate accused Kubacki of insulting his and his colleagues' intelligence by suggesting the knife had slipped into his sock, telling him, "I don't think we have heard anything so ridiculous." Kubacki, whose actions were either through stupidity or immaturity, was handed a 12-week jail term, suspended for 12 months, to include 10 rehabilitation days and 150 hours of unpaid work. He was fined £240, disqualified from driving for 12 months, and ordered to pay costs of £85 and £154 surcharge.
A straight-talking council veteran calls it a day. An island-born man who regards himself as just an ordinary bloke has retired as a county councillor after more than 16 years' service to the communities he represented. Rodney Downer, known for his straightforward, plain-speaking approach to local issues, stepped down on Monday, saying he had had enough after being dogged by ailing health concerns. Rodney represented Wroxall, Lowtherville and Bonchurch areas for the past 4 years, following 12 years in the former Godshill and Wroxall ward. He said, "I got into it in the first place because of the threat to middle schools on the island." His opposition to the reorganisation of schools on the island in 2009 sparked his career in local politics. Rodney, who had no prior experience at county, town or parish level, quickly adapted to his new role. He said, "I didn't have a clue about what I was letting myself in for." A modest man, born in Whitwell, the retired farmer and tomato crop worker said, "I never blow my own trumpet about anything. I'm a very basic person. I'm just an ordinary bloke. I've never classed myself as a councillor and never used the title." His popularity with voters was clear in 2013 when he won his seat with 69% of the vote, increasing his share to 82.46% in 2017. Rodney focused on building strong relationships with the community and council officers. He said, "You have to be humble, Keep your mouth shut and your ears open. I've got a rapport with the locals. I think it's because I'm just one of them. It's important to always be there for people, and I think I was. However, at the age of 74, the past 4 years have taken a toll on Rodney's health, leading to his decision to retire. His wife Helen said, "People haven't a clue. It's a lot of stress, and he's not getting any younger. He's done it long enough." Now retired, Rodney plans to focus on his family, his garden, and his passion for bell ringing, which he started in 1973. Reflecting on his career, Rodney said, "I used to ask questions, straight to the point, in council, none of that pussyfooting about. They used to like that."
Major upgrade to Island cycle path. A major cycling route will be completely closed for 7 weeks from the autumn to undergo a major upgrade. The work, which will start in September, will see the complete replacement of the decking that makes up part of the Cement Mills Viaduct, a section of the Cowes to Newport cycle path. This work will be carried out by Island Roads, who will replace nearly 100 panels that are nearing the end of their life with a sustainable decking that is widely recyclable. The project will be carried out by Island company DDGA, the company that carried out many other infrastructure projects on behalf of Island Roads, including the netting above Gillscliff Road in Ventnor. The viaduct, which was built in Victorian times, is part of the Red Squirrel Trail and the National Cycle Network Route 23. Island Roads project manager George Lovelock said, "Unfortunately, it is simply not possible to keep the bridge open during maintenance, but regular users will be aware the existing decking is now in need of replacement. The new decking is a sustainable solution, will provide a far smoother ride and will last for many years to come."
A teenage terrorist moved to secure unit. A teenage terrorist from the island who has stabbed 10 prison officers since being locked up has been moved to an NHS unit. Nathan Ruth, who can now be named after turning 18, was jailed for 7 years in 2024 after being convicted of plotting an attack at the Isle of Wight festival. The Muslim convert extremist has been transferred from Feltham Young Offenders Institute to an NHS mental health unit in Hampshire. The offender has repeatedly attacked prison officers since being in custody, including trying to slice one guard's ear off. A leaked intelligence report reveals he has a history of improvising weapons and intends to kill a prison officer, the Daily Mail reported. Ruth was caught after a tip-off from the FBI. The boy developed an Islamic extremist mindset and repeatedly researched the Isle of Wight festival. After dismissing the festival as a target because he did not have a vehicle, the youth drew up plans to stab people who worked with him at a specialist education provider. Before his case went to trial, he assaulted 2 custodial workers at a secure children's home. Since then, he has continued his reign of terror, targeting those working to keep him safe in custody.
New owner for Outdoor Pursuits base. A once popular activity and residential centre is to reopen next year under new ownership. Kingswood, off Hillway Road in Bembridge, has been bought by Manor Adventures, another company providing residential trips for school groups. Promising to merge the best of Kingswood with the best of Manor Adventure, the firm has teased a much smaller, more personalised experience for visitors. There will be fewer children per instructor, a greater choice of activity programme and outdoor pursuits after dinner to maximise value, Manor Adventures website said. Our residential activity centres provide school groups with an introduction to outdoor pursuits, with each session lasting 1.5 hours, it said. Once opened, the site will also provide a range of water sports activities. As well as a mixture of accommodation and learning facilities, the site also boasts outdoor activities, including a high ropes course, indoor and outdoor climbing facilities, abseil tower and zip wires, as well as an obstacle course, 3G swing, problem-solving area and low ropes course. Kingswood has been closed since January after its former owner, Inspiring Learning Group, IL, fell into administration. At the time, 3 of the 6 IL centres closing across the country were required by PGL, but the island's hub was not one of them. IL said in a statement, "We are devastated by this news and want to thank all our colleagues and customers for supporting Kingswood over the years. We wish them all the very best for the future. It has been a privilege to be a part of so many life-changing experiences for young people, and we hope that they continue to be memories they will treasure forever." Set within 60 acres, Kingswood went up for sale in March through estate agent Savills. The price of the freehold for the centre was not disclosed and was only available on application. Manor Adventures, which has 5 other centres of excellence in the UK and 2 in France, plans to open the Bembridge Centre in 2026.
Drug needles put garden out of bounds. A couple say their garden has been unusable for years after their upstairs neighbour threw used heroin needles into it. They have slammed Sovereign Network Group, SNG, for inaction. Jack and Becky Francis's garden on Furlongs in Newport is completely overgrown, a mixture of bindweed and nettles. They have not set foot in it since they saw the first needle 2.5 years ago. The couple's neighbour has since died and his garden left piled high with rubbish. Jack said, "Our garden is completely unusable. We were basically told by Sovereign Housing if anyone was called, we would be charged for it. It's just stress we really don't need." Jack and Becky have lived at the property since 2020 and are expecting their first child. Becky said the place is not suitable at the best of times, especially not to have a baby in. "We had a hospital appointment and the baby has come in underweight, which could be due to stress." Jack added, "We've had sleepless nights. We can't get outside without fear of standing on a used needle and contracting who knows what." Jack and Becky said they wanted SNG to take responsibility, but SNG only got involved in the last 2 weeks after the county press made inquiries. The couple have emails showing they had previously asked SNG for help. Jack said, "I want to make the property safe to live in. We want them to take accountability for their inaction and put the property back into the position when we first moved in. If I saw this place now, I wouldn't want to live here." Since Jack and Becky made contact with the county press 2 weeks ago, their flat has been visited by representatives of SNG and the police. An SNG spokesperson said, "Garden maintenance is generally the responsibility of our customers. Our contractors began clearing the neighbouring garden on Friday. To help bring the area back into a manageable condition, they'll then clear Mr. Francis's garden, safely removing any needles if found, with the aim of completing that work by the end of the week."
Houses face demolition after fire tragedy. 2 unsafe and unsightly houses on a main road will be demolished following a fatal fire. Council officers have approved Joanne Still's proposed demolition of 2 significantly fire-damaged buildings, 54 and 56 New Road in Brading, and the construction of a replacement property. On December the 1st, 2023, a fire started at number 56, which it went on to completely destroy the home before spreading next door, according to the Andrew White Planning Consultancy. The blaze resulted in the death of 60-year-old John Kent, the owner of number 56. Miss Still, who owns part of number 54, has sought to redevelop the property with a 2-storey house. It would comprise a kitchen, dining room, lounge, hallway, utility room, 2 WCs, 3 bedrooms and a bathroom. This application will see the demolition of the buildings, which will be an immediate improvement to the visual amenities of the area, the consultancy said. The future development of the neighbouring site, number 56, remains uncertain, as the elderly owner tragically died in the fire and the property was not insured. However, it is necessary to demolish the entire pair for safety reasons and to enable the redevelopment of number 54.
Sewage puts a 104-year-old off swimming in the sea. A centenarian celebrating his 104th birthday, who puts his longevity down to daily swims in the sea, says he would probably not enter open water again because of pollution. Bill Smith from Cowes has been swimming off the beaches of the island for more than 50 years, but he says reports of sewage in the rivers and the sea has put him off, and he will restrict himself to using swimming pools from now on. The Blue Marine Foundation created a video to mark his birthday yesterday, Thursday, celebrating Bill's love of the sea and highlighting his concerns. Bill, who has a son and a daughter, both aged in their 70s, says in the film, "I look at the sea, how lovely it is, but regrettably, I feel I won't be able to swim here again. When I close my eyes, the first thing that hits me is the sound of the sea, and that gives me the incentive to get in. You can't resist it." Explaining his concerns about pollution, he said, "That makes me more worried about swimming in the sea. It's worrying to think that pollution is there. The sea now is not what it used to be. I think my bad habits I have got into would be very much relieved if only the sea was clean. I could pop down, have a little swim, and back home again." Bill, who was born in Bedwas, South Wales, and first started swimming at the age of 3, added, "I used to swim all the year round. A pool is static water, there is no movement, there is no infinity, it's all closed in, whereas the sea goes on forever. I would much prefer to swim in the sea because the sea is much more buoyant. I think there's a magnetism in the sea that pulls me in." Attributing his long life to swimming, he said, "Swimming is a very excellent exercise. I do believe that exercise overall, it will help you to live longer. It not only helps you to live longer, it helps your brain to live longer."
Locals are left in the dark about healthcare provider. Confusion continues to mount over the status of a pharmacy as residents and patients are left in the dark about whether the branch is permanently closed. Jute's Pharmacy on Albert Street in Ventnor, a key healthcare provider in the town, has not been operating during its advertised opening hours for months, a situation that has caused increasing concerns for those who rely on it for prescriptions and advice. The county press contacted the NHS Hampshire and Isle of Wight Integrated Care Board, the ICB, which oversees pharmacy services on the island, to ask whether the Ventnor branch of Jute's had shut for good. However, the NHS neither confirmed nor denied whether the pharmacy is permanently closed. A spokesperson said, "We are aware that Jute's has not been operating to its advertised opening hours for many weeks now. During this time, NHS Hampshire and Isle of Wight has been in regular contact and communication. There are other larger pharmacies in the immediate and wider area on the island which also offer additional services such as Pharmacy First that we would encourage patients to utilise when Jute's is closed. Alongside this, NHS Hampshire and Isle of Wight will continue to closely monitor the services from this pharmacy, continue to support them, and take further action if required. Online confusion is adding to the uncertainty. A Google search lists the pharmacy as permanently closed, yet there has been no official confirmation. Patient frustration has been growing for months, with online reviews reflecting the deteriorating situation. Once largely positive, reviews began to sour in January 2025. One reviewer, Hannah Slater, wrote, "I have been down several times to get my medication and paid for parking only to find it closed." Another reviewer, Barry Hobbs, said, "I have been trying to get my prescription, but it is closed all the time, absolutely useless, no notice or anything." Ventnor residents have also taken to local social media to share experiences and seek information from others. One said, "My doctor said it was closed down." One resident told the CP, "When you look through the window, there's a computer on inside, but the whole place looks filthy." The county press has attempted to contact Jehoots for clarification. While initially directed to another department, a response is still pending.
Friends help injured fox cub on road to recovery. A young fox cub found injured and alone in a garden is now in recovery thanks to the swift action of charity Friends of the Animals. The charity was fundraising at Northwood House on Sunday when concerned holidaymakers alerted them to the distressed cub trapped between a wall and a shed in Seaview. Volunteers used a grasper to safely lift the cub from the narrow space before rushing him to the People's Vet. Vet Greg found that the cub, estimated to be around 6 to 7 weeks old, was suffering from a puncture wound to the stomach, a fractured leg and dehydration. The cub remained under observation overnight. On Monday, Friends of the Animals shared good news. We are overjoyed to inform you that the rescued cub made it through the night. The cub is now receiving further care and rehabilitation from Edward Albert, a local wildlife expert. He's on Metacam and needed his wounds cleaned, the charity said. He has a way to go yet, but we also hope he goes from strength to strength. The weekend also saw the rescue of 2 baby gulls in Newport and a pigeon collected from Carisbrook Vets.
Drink driver sped past police at 90 miles per hour. A drink driver was caught after speeding past police at 90 miles per hour in a 60 miles an hour zone. Nathan Bett of St John's Wood Road in Ryde appeared before Isle of Wight magistrates. The 39-year-old admitted drink driving in Brading on May the 2nd. Prosecutor Lauren McConnell said police were travelling along Ashy Road in Ryde near its junction with Deacons Lane at around 2 a.m. She said an Audi A5 was travelling at significant speed in the other direction and police turned and followed. She said the vehicle was travelling at around 90 miles an hour and when they caught up with the car, its driver, Bett, confessed to consuming a can of Stella Artois. He registered a breath alcohol reading of 76 at the roadside when the legal limit is 35. Bett, representing himself, said he was struggling with his mental health at the time. He said he had a few drinks before getting behind the wheel. Bett was disqualified from driving for 22 months. He must pay a £392 fine, costs of £80 and a £157 surcharge.
Award has hovercraft operator floating on air. A hovercraft operator has been recognised for its contribution to British transport heritage. Hover Travel, which has connected the Isle of Wight and the mainland for nearly 60 years, has been awarded 2 red wheel plaques by the National Transport Trust. The plaques have been unveiled at the company's Southsea and Ryde terminals and celebrate Hover Travel's historical significance and continued service. Loretta Lale, Head of Marketing, said, "We are incredibly proud to receive this recognition from the National Transport Trust. For 60 years, Hover Travel has been more than just a mode of transport. It has been a lifeline for communities, a draw for tourists, and a symbol of British innovation. These red wheel plaques are a testament to the dedication of our team and the enduring support of our passengers." Hover Travel began operations on July the 24th, 1965, using 2 38-seat SRN6 hovercraft, and quickly evolved from a seasonal service into a year-round transport link. Today, it operates 2 12,000 TD hovercraft, Solent Flyer and Island, offering a journey across the Solent in less than 10 minutes. The Red Wheel scheme, managed by the National Transport Trust, honours UK sites of major transport significance.
Woman taken to hospital as drug suspect arrested. A suspected drug dealer arrested following an incident which left a woman in a serious condition in hospital has been bailed. Police were called to an address on Newport Road in Ventnor at around 2:15 on Sunday. Emergency services attended and located a 29-year-old woman suffering from a medical episode. She was taken to St Mary's Hospital by the ambulance service, and an air ambulance landed in a nearby school field in case needed. The main Newport Road was closed off to traffic while the incident unfolded, with ambulance, fire and police teams on the scene. On Monday, police said the woman remained in a serious condition. A 27-year-old man from Ventnor was arrested on suspicion of being concerned in the supply of a Class A drug. In an update on Tuesday, police confirmed he had been bailed until September the 1st. Inquiries are continuing, the force said.
An arrested woman kicked out at police. A woman assaulted 2 police officers out of a sense of injustice after she herself was the victim of an unprovoked group assault. Paris Fleet of Lavender Way, Newport, appeared before Isle of Wight magistrates. The 26-year-old admitted theft from a shop, a public order offence, and 2 counts of assault by beating of an emergency worker in Newport. Prosecutor Lauren McConnell said on March the 1st, Fleet and an accomplice stole goods worth £52 from TK Maxx in Newport and were identified on CCTV. On April the 27th, police were called to a disturbance on Robin Hood Street. There was a risk of violence and several people were in the street, including Fleet, who was seen to spit in the direction of 2 others. Upon her arrest, she tried headbutting a police van, kicked out at a police officer and pushed another in the chest. Oscar Vincent, defending, said Fleet was the victim of an unprovoked group assault and suffered a significant head injury. Fleet was shocked to be arrested, and the assaults occurred in the context of a massive sense of injustice. Fleet was fined £224 and must pay £26 compensation to TK Maxx, cost of £95 and a £90 surcharge.
And now we're moving on to White Memories and Nostalgia. And this is a headline that reads Grisly Tales of Island Life. The Victorians loved stories of ghastly horridness in their newspapers, and Fleet Street's finest were only too glad to feed their appetite. Even our very own county press carried tales of frightful beastliness, usually under the umbrella of the week's news. We begin with this cheery county press item from May 1885. It reads, 2 persons committed suicide at the Eiffel Tower this week. It went on to explain just how. On July the 24th, 1886, the week's news carried this cheery item. A boy named Bartlett was assisting his father in feeding a threshing machine on a farm in Paynton, Devon, on Tuesday, when his scarf became entangled in the revolving bar of the machine, and before it could be stopped, the rest was a gory account. In December 1892, this tantalising letter appeared. Sadly, what lay behind it we shall never know. Sir, I would like to thank the Roughs of St Helens for their courtesy to me last Thursday night, the 24th of November, and also to apologise for not giving them their desired pleasure by turfing me out of the village. I hope that the time will soon come when St Helens will be wholly civilised. Yours obediently, Sufferer. On April the 28th, 1894, the week's news ran this truly wonderful item. An inquest was held on Thursday on the body of Owen Williams, 42, who earned money by frequenting public houses and swallowing bottles, saucers and other things. Evidence was given that the man died from internal obstruction, and that a post-mortem examination revealed inside him numerous pieces of cork and tin foil, a lead bullet, a piece of string with corks attached, 8 bronze pennies, pipe stems and a piece of leather 9 inches long with a hook at each end. A verdict in accordance with the medical evidence was returned. On November the 26th in 1898, under the headline "A Stray Cow," the county press reported, "Frank Rose, dairyman of Shide, was charged with permitting a cow to stray in Pan Lane." P.C. Kenny gave evidence and attributed the wanderings of the cow to faulty fences round the field occupied by the defendant. Defendant denied the charge. When told he could be sworn, he replied, "No, I don't want to swear, sir." Laughter. The bench inflicted a fine of 2 shillings and 6pence and 4 shillings in costs in default, 7 days in jail.
It appears there is some truth in the proverbial stories involving lovesick farm workers and nervous sheep. In October 1898, 15-year-old George Cook of Chale was, in the oh-so-discreet words of the county press, charged with an unnatural offence. In a report headed "A Shocking Charge," the county press declared Edmund Linnington, who works at Atherfield Farm, said that on the previous Wednesday evening, as he was leaving the sheepfold in a field at Atherfield, he saw the prisoner walk into the field. He concealed himself and saw the defendant enter the fold and commit the offence. The prisoner said, "I can't understand what made me do it." And when asked by his father if he was guilty of the charge, he replied, "I suppose I am. Yeah, I'm guilty." The prisoner was committed for trial at Winchester and given bail. Well, usually the county press carried full reports of Winchester trials involving islanders, especially lurid ones like this. But they were short of space the next week and simply reported on how George Cook was bound over under the First Offenders Act. Finally, on September the 30th, 1899, this week's news told the sad tale of the tragic death of a doctor. It read, "The death of Dr. John Dick of Eastbourne under distressing and extraordinary circumstances is reported. On the 14th instant, the doctor made up a bottle of medicine for a lady patient, which she believed was poisoned, as a dose she had taken made her very ill. To disprove her statement, the doctor himself drank a portion of the contents of the bottle and then left for home on his bicycle. It was not a good move. As Dr. Dick pedalled home, he began to feel ill, and by the time he arrived, he was foaming at the mouth. Putting 2 and 2 together, he called for a stomach pump, but it was too late, and he died the next morning. The county press said the inquest was told that the medicine contained strychnine and not the chloroform he said he had used. It appeared that the bottles in Dr. Dick's surgery containing these solutions were identical in appearance. The jury decided the fatality was due to strychnine poisoning. And on that note, good health.
And now we go on to my view. Delighted that Gabby turned the tables on me, writes Josh Barry, a columnist. As you are probably already aware, in combination with my regular county press column, I also have my own podcast called Beyond the Title, where I offer significant figures in the public eye the opportunity to reflect on and celebrate their greatest accomplishments. My main inspiration for an interview platform was the late writer, broadcaster and county press contributor John Hannam. John not only interviewed the great and good of British entertainment, but also local people with a story to tell. Unfortunately, despite knowing John for a number of years during the latter years of his life, sadly, I never made it to the subject of a John Hannam Meets episode, and instead was forced to ponder whether I would have ever had the opportunity to sit on the other side of the microphone. Having athetoid cerebral palsy makes my speech difficult to understand to the untrained ear, and therefore, despite developing a podcast for the past 9 years, I very seldom speak on it and allow my personal assistants to ask the questions on my behalf. On the occasion when I need to be more involved in the conversation, I either write notes for someone else to deliver on my behalf, or my PA James edits in such a way that the episode can still flow smoothly without sounding too awkward with the long delays in my speech. Yet, last month, something extraordinary happened. I received an email from the producer of that Gabby Roslin podcast, Reasons to be Joyful, inviting me to appear as a guest. Gabby had been a great friend and supporter of mine for around a decade now, but I couldn't believe that she was now going to turn the tables on me. I was certainly honoured. Making our way to a very small studio on the outskirts of London, myself and James had a 2-hour car journey to work out how we were going to tackle this. I obviously wanted my voice to be heard, as I figured that this was the reason why I had been invited, and therefore it would have been slightly hypocritical if I wasn't heard within the whole episode. Fortunately, Gabby Roslin is one of the most patient and generous people in the whole of entertainment, and I was eager to find a way that I could speak as much as possible. Thankfully, my PA James is one of the most capable people in translating and conveying my message, so I was thankful that I had the right man for the job. On entering the rustic boutique cafe on the outskirts of central London, I spotted the iconic Danny Minogue, who had just recorded an episode with Gabby. I met Danny in 1996 when Eggs on Legs from The Big Breakfast came to Cowes Yacht Haven, so it felt like a reunion. My episode is available on that Gabby Roslin podcast, Reasons to be Joyful, which is available on the usual streaming services. All I can hope is that more people like me have an opportunity to get their voice heard in this new open medium.
The new NHS Text Waiting List initiative is now live. Islanders will be receiving text messages from the Isle of Wight NHS Trust as part of a new waiting list initiative. The Trust wants to reassure islanders that these messages are genuine and part of an official process designed to improve NHS services across the island. The message is part of a new initiative to validate waiting lists and reduce delays for St Mary's Hospital procedures and appointments. With waiting lists continuing to grow nationwide, the NHS Trust is taking proactive steps to improve access to care. The Trust is launching a waiting list validation programme to confirm whether patients still need their scheduled appointments or procedures. From today, patients with up-to-date mobile phone numbers in their hospital records will begin receiving a text message containing a secure link to an online survey, a unique 4-digit PIN code, and instructions to enter their date of birth to log in. This secure patient portal allows patients to quickly and easily confirm whether they still require care. If the link is not accessed within 24 hours, a follow-up paper letter will be sent. Patients who do not have a mobile number on file will receive a letter by post.
And this is a public information announcement that reads Town Centre Bank closing for refurb. Barclays have announced that its Newport branch will temporarily close for 10 days to undergo refurbishment. The bank on St James's Street will shut its doors on Tuesday, June the 24th until around Friday, July the 4th. During this period, customers will be able to access support and services at alternative locations. Barclays staff will be on hand to assist at the Cowes Banking Hub at the East Side Curve on East Cowes York Avenue on Mondays from 8 a.m. to 12:30 and 1:30 to 5. Additional support will be available at Town Hall Chambers on Rydes Lind Street on Wednesdays and Thursdays from 9 to 12:30 and from 1 to 4. The nearest free-to-use cash machine is at Nationwide in St James's Square.
And now we've got entertainment and things that are happening on the island. And the Minster in Newport is to host a folk festival. A new festival celebrating folk music is set to launch. The Newport Minster Folk Festival will take place on June the 14th at the Minster in the heart of the town. The event will feature a variety of local acts, including Second Time Around, the Hugh Dillon Band, Steve Love, Chasing Scarlet, Tali Monaghan and White Euchres. Platform 1 musician Ruby and Amy and Ellen are also scheduled to perform. The festival will be divided into 2 sessions, a daytime session from noon to 5:30 p.m. and an after-hours session from 6 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. Tickets for each session are priced at £6. In addition to the music, there will be a range of other activities, a licensed bar and food and drink available. John Lavers, festival organiser and Newport Minster's events officer, said, "It is our great pleasure to host the inaugural Minster Folk Festival. Folk is deeply rooted in our traditions and community. All proceeds will be donated to Isle of Wight charities and the Minster Community Projects."
A rare bass saxophone will be among the instruments taking centre stage during a saxophone orchestra tour. Phoenix Saxophone Orchestra, based in Leicestershire, will visit the Isle of Wight from June the 27th to June the 30th for a series of concerts. The orchestra will perform alongside the island's own White Sax Choir during the visit. The 2 groups will give joint performances at Bembridge Village Hall on June the 28th and at Newport Minster on June the 29th. Both concerts begin at 7 p.m. and are free to attend and will include refreshments and a retiring collection. Phoenix will also perform in St Thomas's Square in Newport at lunchtime on June the 28th and at Rillstone Bandstand, Shanklin, on June the 29th from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m.
And round the island race this weekend. Tomorrow, Saturday, sees the return of the spectacular Round the Island race. The iconic event, organised by the Island Sailing Club, annually attracts more than 1,200 boats and around 10,000 sailors, making it one of the largest yacht races in the world. Starting on the famous Royal Yacht Squadron line in Cowes at 7:30 a.m, the fleet will race west, taking them past the Needles Lighthouse, along the southwest coast of the island to St Catherine's Point, and then on back to Cowes. The start will be staggered, with competitors setting off in groups every 10 minutes. Spectators can enjoy many vantage points, and a list can be found at countypress.co.uk. These include Cowes, Sconce Point near Fort Victoria, the Needles, St Catherine's Point at Knighton, Ventnor and Bonchurch seafronts, and Ryde Pier and surrounds. The prize for the outright winner is the coveted Roman gold bowl. The Wet Wheels Foundation has been chosen as the Charity of the Year for 2025.
A theatre group is set to stage Julius Caesar in an open-air performance. Ad Lib Theatre will perform the Shakespearean classic at Northwood House from June the 12th to the 15th. The group, known for their sellout productions of Hamlet, Comedy of Errors and The Taming of the Shrew, will bring to life the tale of Caesar's rise to power and his subsequent assassination. The Ad Lib Theatre Group's previous productions have been highly acclaimed, with audiences appreciating their take on Shakespearean classics. Julius Caesar is one of Shakespeare's most famous plays, known for its rich characterisation and intricate plot. The production will feature a cast of local actors who will deliver the play's well-known lines such as "Et tu, Brute?" and "Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears." Expect exciting dialogue, fabulous characterisations and expert stage combat. Directed by Simon Lynch, the show will see Andy Kay as Brutus, Emily Scotcher as Cassius, Patrick Barry as Mark Antony, Nick Grandvonet as Julius Caesar, and Finlay Revert as Octavius Caesar. The play, which explores themes of power, loyalty and betrayal, is expected to both entertain and challenge its audience. It will run for approximately 65 minutes for the first act, followed by a 20-minute interval, and conclude with the 55-minute second act. The performance will take place at 6:30 p.m. on Thursday, Friday and Saturday, with a 2:30 p.m. matinee on Sunday. Tickets are priced at £10 for adults and £8 for students and can be purchased directly from Northwood House on 01983 293 642 or from northwoodhouse.org/events. The play will be performed in an open-air setting, providing a unique experience for the audience. Audience members are encouraged to bring their own chairs, blankets and picnics, with refreshments also available on site at the Lawn Bar. In the event of bad weather, the performance will be relocated to the ballroom. With the gates opening half an hour before each performance, attendees will have the opportunity to soak in the atmosphere and enjoy the scenic surroundings of Northwood House.
And now we're going on to some letters. And this one is from Susie Frumin in Cowes. And she says, 2 hours to get home. Don't residents matter? Travelling from Cowes to Osborne House on Tuesday morning this morning took 20 minutes. Returning home, the wait for the chain ferry I estimated to be an hour and a half, so I chose to drive. I left Osborne at 5 and arrived home just before 7. When you've been working all day, to treat people in this way is unacceptable and a total disgrace. I noticed coming from Newport, the slip road for Yarmouth wasn't moving at all. When I finally got to the traffic lights at the Forest Road junction, they changed to green 4 times and only 2 cars got through. It seemed people were bypassing the slip road and cutting through the hospital car park to approach Forest Road from the opposite direction, thereby stopping the traffic that had come from Newport turning left. An adjustment to the priority of the lights would ease this. Once on Yarmouth Road and crawling at a snail's pace, it took 30 minutes to reach White House Junction. Surely it would make sense to open the main Cowes to Newport Road for two-way traffic at 5 o'clock. Drivers could then choose to wait at the traffic lights or take the current diversion route. Something has to be done. If they can halt this chaos for the festival weekend, surely they can do it for us, the council tax-paying residents trying to get home from work, or don't we matter?
Water in Focus, writes Paul Knocker of Bembridge. I was impressed by the pictures of Apley Beach in the county press on the 23rd of May, and congratulations to all those supporting the Paddle Out protest designed to put more pressure on the government, water companies and the regulator to stop sewage pollution of the sea and our rivers. Now many of your readers will have received their latest bill from Southern Water. Ours is a 39% increase on the same period last year, with no change in our circumstances or increase in consumption. The regulator is Ofwat, which was established in 1989, when the water industry was privatised. They set the price limits to ensure customers get a fair deal, at the same time promoting investment and efficiency and monitoring the performance of the water companies. David Black is currently the Chief Executive, supported by 11 members of the Executive Board and 10 non-executive board members. This is a long and complex story involving a number of agencies, including DEFRA, but the bottom line is that Ofwat have failed in their primary purpose to ensure consumers get a fair deal over time. It has been widely reported that water companies have been more concerned with dividends, often to foreign owners, and high executive salaries rather than investment. This may not be true in every case, but they have had 40 years to upgrade our Victorian system to secure water supplies, stop the leaks and control storm overflows. The increase in our bills today are just the beginning of the catch-up investment over the coming years, now at a far higher cost.
And now a letter from Ian Dickens from Gurnard, who is saying that Red Funnel is ignoring residents. My wife and I plan to head off the island from East Cowes on June the 20th, returning on June the 23rd, to join our grandson's second birthday party. Armed with my Red Funnel Big Book of Savings, I applied the 25% discount code and was amazed to see there were no sailings available on that day. I removed the code and suddenly there were plenty, but at extortionate prices. Confused, I rang Red Funnel, where an abrupt booking office operative investigated. It turns out that discounts don't apply over the Isle of Wight Festival weekend. I pointed out that we were leaving the island when the festival starts and returning when the festival is over. But it didn't matter. It was a blanket decision that totally ignores the needs of residents. The disinterested phone operator vaguely blamed her marketing department, and when I asked her to relay my opinion, I was told I had to do that myself. Red Funnel CEO Fran Collins is on record as saying, "We have an obligation to support the island and its residents," which is clearly a nonsense. Lumping residents in a tariff aimed at incoming visitors is nothing short of scandalous and illustrates a lack of care for the community. We've now cancelled our trip.
Where have all our doctors gone? Asks Alan Tuck of Newport. They say if you are coughing for a long period of time, get it checked out. But how do you get to see a doctor? I have a cough for 5.5 months and still not had it sorted out. I have apparently had 2 doctors phone me, but twice I did not receive the calls, and there is no record on my phone of them calling. So I went to the surgery and spoke to the receptionist, and all they said was rebook an appointment online. I asked for a face-to-face appointment with the doctor, and the earliest they could see me was almost 6 weeks away. I asked if there was any earlier, and she said face-to-face are few and far between. Where have all our doctors gone?
Okay then, that's the end of the reading from the county press. So it's goodbye from Lynn.
And goodbye from me, Morris. The BBC In Touch programme follows, and the scaffolding news follows that.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello.
10, 9, ignition sequence start.
Now, watch this space. That's often how we end our reports on this programme, but today it is our subject.
Tower cleared.
It's been a long time since we were astonished at getting a man on the moon, but now we're asking, is there a place in space for visually impaired people? And is the fact that one effect of continuous zero gravity can be damaging to your eyes going to make that more or less likely? We're going to be talking about that in a moment with a NASA optometrist who's studying it. But first, I'm joined by Dr. Sherry Wells Jensen, who's a professor of linguistics at Bowling Green State University in Ohio and is researching how to make outer space accessible to all of humanity, including us. Oh, and by the way, she is totally blind. So let me cut to the chase, Sherry. Is there a place for visually impaired people in space?
Well, my immediate answer is of course. I mean, there's a place for us everywhere we want to be. A blind person could go up in a suborbital flight yesterday. There's nothing inaccessible about that. You get into the cabin, you experience some extreme acceleration upward, and then you float there for 3 or 4 minutes and you come back down, boom. There's nothing that a blind person can't do. Sit in the seat, get out of the seat, get back in the seat. You do that in your living room every day, right? So if you want to just go up and float around for a little bit, that's all the fun you've ever imagined in the world. I've been on a zero-G parabolic flight, so I know a tiny bit about zero gravity. And it depends on what you want to do in space. Do we want to fly the ship? Do we want to use a computer while we're there? What is our job going to be in space? So it's really all about making the job accessible, right? Not so much the environment. Space is a terrible, dangerous, bad place for everybody. It wreaks havoc on your muscles. It wreaks havoc on your bones. It's bad for almost every body system you have because we were not evolved for that. We were evolved to be here, a nice, happy, pleasant little Earth with lots of available air and sunshine and water and gravity to pull us down.
Can I just ask you, when you did those simulated flights where you were experiencing zero gravity, did it live up to your expectations?
I just cannot describe to you the gentleness of the floating. You're just floating. And you're not, floating is the wrong word, because if you're floating in a pool, for example, that's lovely, but you always know which way's up and you always know which way's down, right? You're oriented. But in microgravity, the whole idea of up and down is just sort of erased from your brain. And you know you have arms and you have legs, but your legs are not reliably down because there is no down. And it's so gentle. It's like being held ever so tenderly. And with the touch of your finger, you can fly across the cabin. It is so much fun.
So you're taking this seriously. Is NASA taking this idea of visually impaired people in space seriously?
That's a really good question. NASA is not saying, heck no. But they're not saying, how do we get you there the fastest way we can possibly get you there? Please come. I think cautious optimism, emphasis on cautious, because they don't want anyone to get hurt. And they want the mission to go well. Those are sort of the two goals. And so I would say that there is not an active research program per se.
Right. But are they being influenced by this discovery that space flight can cause eye problems?
And I obviously don't speak for NASA, but I think the approach is, oh my gosh, space is doing something bad to the human body. Let's try to make it stop. It might turn out that there isn't a way to fix it. And it might turn out that it's worse than we think it is, in which case, at least our expertise will be welcome, if not our actual selves.
Well, I've been talking about this to Professor Tyson Brunstetter. He's an optometrist who's been studying for NASA this unforeseen eye condition.
SANS stands for Spaceflight Associated Neuroocular Syndrome, which is why we call it SANS. But it is a unique condition to spaceflight that affects the eyes and brain of astronauts.
And without going into too much technical sort of jargon, what does it do? What is happening within the eyes?
So one of the end results that we diagnose frequently in our crew members are four main signs. The first is called optic disc edema, and this is a swelling of the neurons that transmit visual information from the eye back to the brain. With enough swelling over enough time, this can enlarge a person's blind spots. It can cause simply areas where you don't see. If it's severe enough for a long enough period of time, it can become a permanent loss of vision, which of course we want to avoid. But we've got also folds that appear in the retina, which is essentially the camera film that captures light, and it's what our brain uses to generate vision. So you can imagine if the film, the retina of the eye, is folded, at some point it can cause a distortion in a person's vision. Luckily, we've never diagnosed distorted vision due to these folds from SANS. A third main sign for SANS are shifts in refractive error. In other words, if you fly into space, you might find that the prescription of your glasses or contact lenses has shifted. And then finally, the fourth main sign of SANS is a physical flattening of the back of the eye. We don't know of any definite risks associated with this flattening, but of course, it is a little bit shocking when you see it on the imaging.
And how serious is this? I mean, how much has it been actually seen in astronauts, and have people actually experienced vision loss?
So ever since the beginning of human spaceflight, the eyes of astronauts have been examined before the flight and after the flight. Today, we monitor eyes pre-flight and post-flight, but also in flight. And we diagnose SANS in about 71% of all crew members who fly for long periods of time. A typical mission on board the ISS is about 6 months. So in about 72% of those folks, we do diagnose SANS. We've detected a handful of folks with those enlarged blind spots, of course, with those shifts in refractive error that require glasses and things of that nature, but luckily no permanent impairment. Although we have diagnosed SANS in a crew member as early as 10 days into a mission, it takes time for SANS to develop and worsen. And so most of our data is based on 6-month mission. We are concerned about what happens during a 1-year mission, what happens during a 2.5 or 3-year mission to Mars. And that's really where I lose sleep at night. It's thinking about how do we mitigate SANS for missions to Mars?
So what is it, Dr. Brunstetter, what is it about spaceflight that causes this?
We strongly believe that the primary driver for this, besides just simply being in space, is the fact that there's no gravity. And as you and I are sitting here talking, gravity is pulling fluids down towards our lower extremities, especially down towards our legs and our feet. When you go into space, as soon as you enter into what we call microgravity, 0 Gs, the fluid wants to distribute uniformly. So if you watch a video of someone making a drop of water in space, it immediately forms into a sphere. And so the fluid in our body wants to do the same thing. It wants to become as much of a sphere as it can. What that really means is about 1 to 2 liters of fluid migrates from our lower extremities up towards our head. And it somehow causes these signs that we see as SANS, as well as the brain changes.
But obviously, as you've said, the concern about this is longer flights, which is what's going to happen, presumably, with space exploration. Is this not concerning astronauts? Because presumably they're aware of this risk.
They're aware. NASA considers SANS to be we call it a red risk for Mars missions, meaning this is a condition that needs to be mitigated. It needs to be treatable by the time we go to Mars to ensure that our crew members are able to see and function and perform as they should when they touch down on the surface of Mars and then return. Even a slight loss in visual acuity could affect not only that person's safety and health, but also the overall mission. So there is quite a bit of seriousness associated with SANS. And so NASA, as well as its international partners, including ESA, our European Space Agency partner, we are doing our very best to try to investigate these risks, these conditions, and try to find proper treatments.
Professor Tyson Brunstetter, and listening to that with me is Dr. Sherry Wells Jensen. Sherry, I mean, what effect do you think that might have on the idea of visually impaired people going into space?
Well, the first thing that's going to happen is that our expertise will be needed. If they decide, okay, people are going to have X% less terrific vision when they get to Mars, eventually someone's going to say, and maybe it's going to be one of us, right? Hey guys, we know what to do with X% less vision. We're good with that. We know how to help you. If they decide that they cannot treat this thing, then they're going to start thinking about what are the accommodations that they're going to need. Eventually, it's going to click for folks that if they've made those accommodations, they could send at least someone who has that amount of vision loss. Someone who is legally blind, who can, maybe still read print or something like that.
Got a bit of sight, got a bit of use.
Yeah, I think I'm not next in line. I don't think you're next in line either, sorry.
Will we have a real role to perform, or will we just be taken along for the inclusivity ride, ticking the disability box?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know what? I think it's about the person who goes and what they insist on, right? I think for a long-term mission right now, you can't afford just to send someone because of how super cool you'll look for sending a blind person. We can't afford to do that. Space is a difficult environment. We don't have room for people that are just going to lollygag around and be pretty. We need people who get stuff done. You need a pilot, you need a doctor, right? You need these kind of roles, and whoever goes is going to have to fill one of those roles. But part of it depends on if we do something about that, right? Are we working to get our young people into STEM fields so that they can be ground crew for some of these flights? Because once you've got a bunch of disabled people and a bunch of blind people working as ground crew, then they're like, oh yeah, look at all these disabled people. They're space people. We should pick one of them to go. But as long as we are rare in the STEM fields, I think it will be harder for us to raise awareness enough so that we can go as something beyond window dressing.
Dr. Sherry Wells-Jensen, thank you so much for joining us. Just one note before we go. A few weeks ago, we were discussing the potential merits of the Ray-Ban Meta glasses for visually impaired people. And it was mentioned in that programme that a brand offering similar products in the field, Orcam, had been discontinued. We need to offer some clarification to those who got in touch about this. Orcam no longer sells their products directly to customers in the UK. Instead, they've made the assistive technology provider Optelec their exclusive distributor to UK customers. So you can still buy Orcam products here, but through Optelec. If you currently own an Orcam product and you purchased it through them, then you can still go to them if you need assistance. But if you bought it through Optelec, you need to go to them. As always, we'd like your views and comments on anything you've heard in the programme. Do you fancy a few months on Mars? Let us know. Email in touch at bbc.co.uk, or you can leave voice messages on 0161 836 1338. From me, Peter White, and producer Beth Hemmings, goodbye.
Scaffolding and Skips News the week commencing the 6th of June 2025. In the Newport area, Guildhall, Quayside, Quay Street, Cafe Isola and St James's Street, Man in the Moon, 16 to 17 St James Street, 78 Pyle Street and 1 Laundry Lane.
Ryde area, Aspire, 35 to 36 High Street, 2 Union Street, 1 Port View, Seaview, the Charcoal Grill, 65A Union Street, Michelangelo's, 30 St Thomas Street, and 131 High Street.
In the Ventnor area, Tinto's on 24 Pier Street, 1 Pier View Esplanade, 28 South Street and 21 Church Street.
The Sandown area, the Montpellier Hotel, 5 Pier Street, 3 Fort Street, 77 High Street, Fields, 47 to 49 High Street, 44 Beachfields Road, Pier Street side of the building.
In the Cowes area, 9 Carville Lane, the Anchor Inn, which is 1 to 3 High Street, and Lloyds Bank on 71 High Street. And the Cowes area skips, 48 Beckford Road,